Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight on A World Awakening. I'm so glad to be back with you. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, and there was a reason for that, and it's called Alaska. And so, if any of you were watching my previous show, Soul School Sojourn, you got to hear all about that trip and all the emotional trials and tribulations that went with it. And any of you that know me that well enough to know that I don't really have a filter when it comes to expressing myself. But really, would you want me any other way? So there's that. But tonight, I'm so thrilled to bring my dear friend back on the show. And many of you know him as the original producer of this version of A World Awakening, Mr. Tony Rathman. And so there he is. Oh, my so
Good to
sweet.
see. So good to see you.
It's been too long, my friend. It's been too long. The last
It
time
has.
we were together was, I believe, at Vulture City in north of Phoenix, correct?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, and that was, oh man, that was September or October. So we're only 4 months away. It's almost been, it's been 8 months.
Yeah, a long time. And we do reach out to each other and we talk to each other from time to time, and we certainly text each other, but it's just not the same.
Right.
It's lovely and it's wonderful, and I get to catch up on you and the family and vice versa, but it's just not the same.
Could not agree
Now,
more.
I don't want to disclose anything about your future plans that you're not willing to disclose. So you say whatever you have to say about that, and we'll start talking.
All right. Well, um, there isn't much to hide anymore. We we've been working, and this started more than a year ago, probably a year and a half, coming up on 2 years ago. We were working on a new communication method with consciousness or disembodied consciousness without a human body. And some paranormal counterparts of mine were testing a process called DRV, or direct radio voice.
Mhm.
And then Cherie and I got involved in it after we heard it, and we made a ton of adjustments.
Mhm.
We no longer call it direct radio voice because we were able to actually remove the radio. There is no radio involved whatsoever. And it just kept progressing over the last year. We made enhancements upon enhancements, and the results are, I don't know how else to describe it except mind blowing.
Yeah.
We get amazing results, and for about the last year, we've been working on a full length documentary on the process, the research that went into it, the results that it gets. And I did probably the last set of edits earlier this week, and it's going to go for one or two more reviews, and hopefully we'll be out July.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. And I have two projects coming out. Um, One is called Beyond the Grave, and the one that's in post production edit right now. I don't know. It's the one that you filmed with me, going
Oh,
all the way
yes.
back to Yucca Valley and Joshua Tree.
Right.
Yep. Turn your volume up just a little bit more, honey. I'm having trouble hearing you. And if I am, maybe the audience is too, and I don't want them to miss a word. Um, but
All right. Is that better?
That's better. And yeah, we're working with Serena on that as well. So I just saw the first of the two films, and it's amazing. I'm so impressed. She did a really remarkable job, and I'm hoping and expecting that that same level of quality will come through in the second piece as well. So, between the two of us, we've got all these productions going on, and I know too that you will again be my producer for A World Awakening. That's coming up in the relatively near future, and will be taking the reins with my Friday night shows on KGRA. And by the way, I just want to our producer that's stepping in tonight. Her name is Chanel, and she is the most lovely, wonderful human being. I can't wait till I get the opportunity to meet her in person. I know that I will. But Bill, who is the general manager of KGRA, who has been producing this show in your absence because of our time change, and all of that
Right.
crazy. He's off on an excursion of his own this weekend. So
Correct.
Chanel was the
Correct.
reason that we're here tonight, is because Chanel was willing to step in and step up with Soul School and with A World Awakening. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank her for making this happen for us.
That's fantastic. I remember meeting her once, actually, when I was still with KGRA, and she had just started, but I think she produced one or two of our shows when we were still on KGRA prior. But it was good to have a chance to talk with her tonight. And yeah, seems like just a lovely young lady. And she was also saying that Bill was in New Mexico and
Yeah.
on a little adventure, and Bill told me that as well. So, but very cool. So excited to hear about the projects and the fact that they're coming along. Any, I don't want to overstep my boundaries either, but any idea as to release times, approximations, dates?
Well, the first one, I believe, is already in the hands of the distributor. So we're just waiting to find out, in what platform and what venue. I don't think that the intention was to put this out as a feature film, more as a documentary, and to find the right and proper streaming service for it. And
Right.
I am completely on board with that, because since COVID, there haven't been a whole lot of feature films that have been made, and they're the theaters are really struggling to get customers back in, and both of the major theater corporations in America are in full or limited bankruptcy.
Right.
So it's and then of course there's a writer's strike, and now there might be an actor's strike. And as a completed documentary, if that all comes to pass, then to have these films in the can already means that we can put them out as fresh content when maybe there's not going to be a whole lot of fresh content.
Exactly. And I think you absolutely have the right mindset for it, because it's knowing partially what's involved in those, and knowing the subject matter and the material. I mean, it's something you want as many people to see and experience as possible. And the two good things about going to streaming platforms is that they're basically available almost worldwide.
Right.
Anybody can find it, get a hold of it, view it. The other good part is that when popularity of it hits, and you start getting the big numbers of people that are viewing it, liking it, talking about it, sharing it on social media, that's when the bigger networks start to take notice and go, okay, yeah, I heard about that, and so it opens up doors from a platform that did not exist,
just a few years ago.
Right. And now it gives the opportunity for almost anybody. It's always good to have the interconnections, but for almost anybody to create something that they passionately feel so strongly about, and be able to put it out and share it with others. And that's what we're doing as well. So that's excellent.
Yeah, it has been a really good time for the paranormal community, particularly in that respect. Um, the second film, which was tentatively titled "We Are Not Alone," um, is that's my real passion. That's my
Right.
real love of what I'm doing. And just before on Soul School, I was talking about an experience that I had here in the house the other night where it sounded like something, a cracking, popping noise, like something
Between the
was trying to
ceiling and the
break
wall.
through in the ceiling, like right at the seam at the crown molding. I was like, what the hell is that? And then poof, I mean, the brightest, purest crystalline white light that you can imagine. And I don't know, I cannot say for sure if what came into this house, that what came through, whatever, and it sounded kind of synthesized. It sounded like a very heavy static. And you work with sounds and you work on the other side, so that some very strange sounds can come through. But it didn't feel, I mean, I know there are spirits in this house. I know that they are
Oh yeah.
here and why they are here. And I don't feel in any way alone in this endeavor um, that I'm here for. I have one opportunity to get this right, just one, and I'm making sure that I do. Uh, but I had such a sense of warmth, and I felt so welcoming toward this experience, as shocking as it was. I didn't know what to make of it, but my sense is that it was galactic family, that it was extraterrestrial in nature, and that they were breaking through to make their presence known in the house, to let me know that they were with me, and to be supportive of this process that we're
Sure.
undergoing, this transformational process. Um,
Wow.
and I was so grateful and so humbled and so blown away by it. It was lovely. Oh, by the way, I just want to apologize to all of our viewers for being 1 minute and 3 seconds late in the show tonight, because I went into the kitchen to get some ginger ale because my throat's been really dry, especially after spending a bajillion hours on an airplane. And when I came back, Peanut had taken my spot. And so I wasn't able to get to the computer and get in. She's like, I'm going to go find the warmest spot. Where was mom sitting? Oh, there. Yeah. So there's that now. And she's resting comfortably beside me
Well,
now.
that's
She used to
that.
remember the days when she used to get really excited about coming on the show.
Oh yeah.
Those days. Okay. I guess now we're just old hat or something. She's just like, yeah, whatever. Mom's doing her show. Whatever. I'll sleep through it. But she's my sweet little darling, my peanut buttercup. Oh, it was so hard to be away from her. It was terribly hard to be away from mom and not be able to reach out to her. But especially for those several days that we were really out at sea and there
Yeah.
was no signal to be gotten. There was just no signal. But Tony, I've got a feeling that, well, first of all, I've got some really great ideas for when we're together next. And one thing in particular that I really want to work on, I'm really fascinated with what you're doing. You're well aware of what Cody Ray Despian and Satori Hawes are doing.
Right.
Um, we're making great and profound breakthroughs in paranormal research. And frankly, I didn't know if I would ever live long enough to see what is happening now in real time, with me present, with you present, and not just being an objective observer, but actually being involved. And I don't know, a case in point, the last time that I was at the farmhouse, Cody and Satori were doing their method, for lack of a better word. I don't know if they've even named it what they do, but that's this, connectivity that
Right, and the
is
spelling
so
out of
beautiful and
words
so
and names.
it is. It's so profound, and a truly significant breakthrough. Um, and There was, a lot of the tapping and the knocking that you can't find the source. You don't know where it could possibly be coming from. And Satori is so kind-hearted, and she said to the spirits, "Okay, okay, I can't talk to all of you at once. Do you have something to say? Who do you want to say it to?" And they started spelling out my name. She said, "Andrea, yes, one knock." And then she said, "Okay, and it's a message from all of you. Yes, one knock. It's one knock for, and then two for no."
Right.
And they're so good about following directions. I mean, they're so good about it. And she said, "Okay, so you have something to say to Andrea. What do you want to say? Tell me how many words." 4 words. And it came through, and somebody sits and is charged with recording what gets written, writing down what gets said.
Right.
And the 4 words that came through were, "We miss your family."
Oh, wow.
You
That's amazing.
know,
That is
it's like, and
amazing.
I'm sitting there like all verklempt, like, "Oh my God, oh my God." It was so sweet. And just before I arrived, there was a group there that was doing an investigation, and they had their little gizmos and their gadgets going and their recorders, and they're doing EVPs and stuff. And I don't even remember which group it was, because you and I both know so many of them.
Right.
The seasoned, hardened, hardcore investigators. And one of them said, uh, "Andrea's on her way," and it came right through the spirit box they had. "We know."
Wow. It's amazing to be able to hear direct, intelligent communication when you're literally speaking into open air, but then to have that response come back, and to get the message regardless of what communication method, but to have them say, "Okay, we've got a message for Andrea. It's 4 words. We miss your family." When you're standing in the house you grew up in, and you can't deny how that makes you feel. No different than when you were explaining about the strange sound coming between the meeting point between the ceiling and the wall, but it was your reaction to it where you said, I felt secure, I felt, humbled, I felt excited.
Yeah.
They wanted you to feel that, and you
Yeah.
did.
Oh,
And
I got the warm fuzzies. I
right,
did. I didn't feel like, it sounded like electricity, Tony, but I knew that it wasn't, electricity in the way that we know it. It
right.
wasn't harmful. It wasn't going to spark a fire in the wall or anything like that. It was electricity that does not create fire, but it creates light. It was like pure white crystalline light. It
Wow.
actually hurt when the explosion of light happened above the curtain line. It took me back. I mean, I had to blink and block it for a split second because it was so intense.
Wow.
Not like any kind of light that we have managed to create on this planet. And I think it is safe to assume that, as I've always said, the safest assumption to make is that we know nothing compared with what there is to know.
So true. So true. We probably think we know 35%, and even that's probably not 100% correct.
Yeah.
But that other 65-70% of the variables, we don't have a clue.
No.
We don't, as humans, our mind can't wrap around it, and science can't explain it because science is 3D, this world based. And anything beyond that just isn't in their equation to be able to either study or pick apart or define.
Right.
And when it goes beyond the human mind to be able to comprehend it because we don't know the variables involved. Yeah, that's why it's paranormal. That's why it's a mystery. That's why it's the unknown.
Well, but something that is metaphysical in nature that can manifest as physical in nature, that's what it's that quantum leap between there and here. And when
Right.
that happens and it comes together is the most fascinating part of the research that's being done. And I'm kind of a science geek, or at least a wannabe scientist. I can't help it. I'm just so I find it so alluring. Um, but I was just reading recently, like in the last couple of months, in Scientific America, I believe, um, about the science going back to re-examine the human genome. Because remember when they cracked the genome and they said 20% of it is who we are, our hair color, our eyes, our body shape, our this, our
Right.
that, our blood type, our all of that. And then they discarded the rest as junk DNA because they didn't understand it. Well,
Right.
guess who's going back to look at that again, and possibly even considering like Avi Loeb, and let's consider that this is a possibility. Meanwhile, Harvard's trying to throw him out because they think he's gone off the deep end. Well, you know what? Guess what? Everything that they've just determined by his research so far indicates that there is a vessel that's floating around our solar system, kind of monitoring things like the ultra Chinese spy balloon, only even cooler. And
Right.
they're going back now, and they're looking at the 80% of our DNA that they discarded as junk science, junk DNA, because they're beginning to think that perhaps with each and every one of us, it is our Akashic record, our personal record of our existence and where we come from and why we are here. And that is a huge leap in a field of study that is all too often closed off from the possibilities.
Yeah. Well, and that is so great to hear because the definition of what science is supposed to do is to look again, to re-examine, to check again,
Yeah.
and to take 80% of it and say this is junk and throw it away. How much is being missed?
And lost.
Right. And as you further go down a path, you sort of form your own opinions of what you think is right and what you think is wrong, and then you become skeptical of other people bringing something forward because it may not match your opinion. But
Right.
there's a saying that says, if you're skeptical, be skeptical of your skepticism because you might be missing something.
Yes.
And that's super important with science or any other aspect of life.
Any other aspect of life. Exactly right. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And so that is reason enough to forge ahead in
Yeah.
in inquiry, and whether it's scientific inquiry, whether it's spiritual inquiry, whether it is physical or metaphysical, or the convoluted conflagration of both,
Absolutely correct.
is the reason. And it takes a certain amount of personal courage to do that.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
If you look at anybody in history, and I don't care whether it's from science, religion, or any area, when somebody comes up and states a theory that falls outside of the boundaries, they are criticized, they are ripped on, they are put down until something happens where it ends up being correct. And then everybody backpedals and says, oh, well, but there's huge fear in that, because you have to be strong enough to withstand that pushback, take the criticism, take the cuts and the the backstabbings. If you're going to try to bring something forward that most people don't think is possible, and
Right.
it takes real guts.
And if your mission, like I perceive my own to be, which is to, in myriad ways, expand human consciousness. You
Yes.
know, create a scenario and introduce hypotheses that cause people to think outside their eggshell, their 3D eggshell, or the box, as we like to call it. I like to, I've always thought that the box's walls were made of cardboard, and if you kick them hard enough, you're going to punch a hole through, and there's
Yeah.
something out on the other side of that.
Right.
So I had Steve Bassett on the show a couple of months ago, and he gave me the biggest compliment I think I have ever received from someone of his caliber. And he called me rogue. And and it's like, Steve, really? Really? I didn't say that to him on the air. I mean, I just kind
Right.
of took it in and processed it when he said it. But he referred to me as, I've kind of gone rogue. And I do. I fly above the radar. I do. I
But,
don't get caught up in all the gobbledygook and all the
right.
stuff that goes on. And this is my evidence, and I'm not sharing it because I know the
Right.
paranormal community will rip it apart before the larger community ever sees it. And there is a lot of that. There's a lot of an undercurrent of competition.
Right.
Um, and I think that's ridiculous. It's
It's
it's juvenile. It's like grade school, schoolyard, petty bickering and fighting and bullies and all of that. We should embrace it and
right.
celebrate each other and all of I mean, it's inspiring to me to learn about what you're doing. I had you on the show last year, and you shared so much of the technical audio stuff that you were doing, and had it loaded and ready to go. And I mean, people, oh my God, the feedback I got on that show, Tony. Oh my God. I
That's
would encourage anyone. Well, Lenny can go back and find it and repost it. And that would be lovely, because anybody that missed it would really want to see what you're doing and where you're going. And I know personally that you've made, leaps and advances since then.
right. Yeah, we have. In fact, um, before I say that, the whole thing about Steve saying that you've gone rogue, that that is where you function perfectly,
Yeah.
because you're not going rogue on a whim. If you're going rogue, you do it based off of your principles, off of what you believe in, what you feel is right for an individual, for humanity as a whole, for the planet. You going rogue is only because the rest of the population is screwing up, and they can't see the wrong turns they're making. And so that's the utter compliment for you to have him say that, because it means you're throwing that stone, you're creating those ripples, and hopefully people will listen. But as far as the advancements that we've made, we've been working on this for quite some time. And anybody who did see that show when I was still talking about DRV, what we have achieved with this, we all six of us, the EVPE team, and I say EVPE because that's the show name that we do, Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. We all flew out to North Carolina because one of our other teammates had a location that he said, you've got to check this out. And normally I don't consider myself sensitive. I don't consider myself, aware necessarily, at least from a sight value, if there's a spirit in the room. But we just gotten in there and we're all standing. We hadn't even gone upstairs yet. And I see something in the bend of the stairs where it comes down and then loops and then goes down again. And I'm looking at it, and Chris says to me, "What do you see?" I said, "I think there's a young girl standing by the stairs." He goes, "Right at the corner?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yep, that's Sarah." So, that kind of shocked me a little bit because I'm not used to that. Well, then we were outside, and yes, I was smoking a cigarette, but I saw her look through the window from the inside out at us. And again, Chris goes, "You see that?" I said, "Yeah, she just, stuck her head like to look out the window." He goes, "Yep." Well, we were running Staticom, and it literally said, "And Tony Rathman can see." And I was just like, oh my gosh. So the community, right. I mean,
oh my God, that just sent chills through me. Oh, that's so great.
It did to me too. And then, but to have them acknowledge not only what I thought I was seeing, but that they responded saying, "And Tony Rathman can see." And I was like, oh my gosh. And then one of our other teammates just asked a simple question about the house, and she phrased it to the owner and said, "What's your favorite part of this house?" And then you would expect an answer like the dining room or the studio or the library. And this house, they were given 5,000 acres. So this house was in the middle of nowhere. Do you know what answer came through? A male voice said, when she said, "What do you like best about this house?" He said, "No cops. The children can play." And then he said, "The house has safety." And I was like, oh my gosh. And this isn't hard to hear like a spirit box. This is clear. I mean, just like if you were hearing somebody on the phone or even talking to them like we're talking now. And I'm like, it blew me away because not only did it answer the question, but it answered it in a term that I wasn't ever even expecting to hear. But yet it made perfect sense from a timing and intelligence standpoint to the question that was asked. And it's incredible. And this happens over and over and over.
Do you sometimes feel like time itself is speeding up and that the discoveries are coming so rapidly that you feel this anxiety to get everything down, to get everything recorded, to make sure that you've got it all, that you don't miss anything, because it's just fast and furious.
Right.
I know that's what I feel about with the farm now. We're starting to get answers to questions that we had 50 years ago, 55 years ago. And we're getting the answers now through an entirely different methodology that did not exist back then.
Yeah. And, when you were talking about Satori and Cody, I mean, their method is absolutely fascinating. They are super good at it. But to think about a combination between like them using their method and us using ours in conjunction, I mean, I can't even imagine what doors would open from that possibility for them being able to get responses via the way that they do, and then be able to hear straight out responses as well. And like I said, there's a big difference between what we're working on and like a spirit box, and over the research.
Yeah, they're not even comparable.
They're
really.
not. Yeah, they're not on the same page. Plus, we took away a lot of the low hanging fruit that both skeptics, people in academia, and even scientists pull from, because their general response to anything that use a radio is you think you got an answer, you're getting a stray radio wave. That's gone. There is no radio. We can't get radio waves. We can't get satellite wave. We can't get any type of wave. We use strictly broadband white noise, and that is it. which has no data, has no sound files, has no music banks, has nothing, no vocal data at all. So there should be no voices there, but yet there are. They're intelligent and they answer.
And responsive.
Right.
Yeah. And that is amazing. Did you happen to, last year I did an episode of the Ghost Brothers at the farm. Did you happen to see the screenshot
I
where
did.
I was touching the entity and I went into that dimension and you could see right through?
Your hand was right. Your whole part of that side of your body was like transparent and glowing. And oh yeah, I saw that. That was amazing.
And there was a shadow figure that was standing in the corner of the two doors that was kind of peering into the room, like, is she really doing that? Is she really touching? And yeah, I want to know who that was. I want to know. I need to know who that was. I mean, we were in Vulture City together in Arizona when
Right.
that episode aired.
Right.
And like the prior May, I was with the guys at an event in Ohio, and they said, our producers never let us see anything before it airs.
Right.
They shoot it, and the director puts it together, the editors, and then we don't see it until they air it.
Right.
And he said, but just before they came to Ohio, they were out in LA, and they said our producer called us into the studio and said, sit down and watch this. And they had not seen it before, or anything like that had ever happened before. And they were so completely blown away. And then, so they come to Ohio and they're like, oh my God, Andrea, wait till you see. And I'm like, well, tell me. Well, we can't. What do you mean you can't? You just dragged me out of a meet and greet to tell me how excited you are, but you can't tell me what you're excited about. And then I couldn't watch it because we were out in the desert and I wasn't back at the hotel room. And oh my God, I didn't see it for weeks later. But the funniest thing was that I was up here in Georgia. I don't even remember why, but it was just before Christmas. And Christine was sick and tired of whatever we were watching. And so she starts going through the guide, and up comes that episode of the Ghost Brothers, right? And I'm like, oh, that's the episode where my whole arm and half my body disappeared. And you could see the hutch right through me, and the hardware on the door, and the wood, and the this and the that.
Right.
I said, do you want to watch it? And she's like, nah. Let's see if we can find what she wanted to watch. The Princess Bride. She wanted to go find the Princess Bride and watch that. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to take that personally at all. And part of it is she just didn't want to revisit the farmhouse, and she didn't want to have that feeling of
Right.
It wasn't that she wasn't proud of me, or that
Right.
this was something interesting to watch, or not. So that she just doesn't want to go there. I mean, literally and figuratively, she doesn't want to go there.
Right.
And she's thrilled by, I tell her, I keep her up to date on, the advancements that we're making in the field, and the people that are coming in, and the work that's being done, to the extent that I can hold her interest. But she'd really rather watch, Twister. She loves Twister, the movie. I mean, like, to the point that we can quote the script, and The Princess Bride. That's her escape. That's her, and we're plunging ourselves into this surreality. It is surreal what we're doing. And it's kind of dragging us out of the mundane 3D reality that most human beings dwell in. And then I look at my brilliant sister, who's lived through all of this stuff with me, but she'd rather stay inside her 3D reality. That's more comfortable for her. And I don't judge her for that.
No, but you're absolutely right with using the word comfortable, because everybody's level of comfort is different. Now, whether that has to do with who knows what variables, whether you're an older soul and have been through this multiple times and you're trying to expand your knowledge of knowing there's another side, who knows what those reasons are. But there is a definite line between those who look at something like this and all excited jumping towards it. There's very few people in between these lines, and then there's the ones who it's outside of their comfort zone and they don't want anything to do with it. And that's, like you said, there's not a right side to be on or a wrong side. It's just where they're at and what they want to see and what they want to know. But I just want to make one comment, because I see the comments going through the chat. So anybody who's looking for those clips that I was talking about, if you go to YouTube and just type in Staticom, which is the name of it, you'll go right to the site that is filled with nothing but examples of what Staticom is capable of doing. It says Ron Yacovetti and Tony Rathman, so you won't have any trouble finding it. So, but you're right. That boundary of where people get uncomfortable is the stopping block. And then there's those of us that chase anything and everything we can just to see what else we can learn, understand, or place another piece of that puzzle onto the picture.
Well, I think that all of us are going through, it was the whole premise of Soul School, that we are, I started with classes in session, class dismissed, and then you just leap right into this whole swirling, energetic, kind of eclectic, cerebral exercise to advance and expand human consciousness. And, even the viewers, whether or not they agree with what's being said, they may be thinking about something a little different way than they ever did before. And
Correct.
that itself has intrinsic and inherent value.
Huge
in terms of our own personal evolution. But everybody travels, it's not a ladder that you climb. And I don't even think it's like a Venn diagram that you walk, where it stays at horizontal. Like, I'm not ahead of anybody else, nor is anybody else ahead of where I am, because this is about our own interpersonal relationship with ourselves.
Exactly.
And whatever it was that created us.
Right.
There are people that think that the extraterrestrial activity that so many of us are perceiving and making contact with is actually us from the future coming back to warn us in the present of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's as plausible an explanation as anything else when you are dealing with a limitless, expansive universe where we know this of this.
Exactly. No, excellent point and well said, but so true. And that whole not understanding gives twice the reason why, like I was saying about that, be skeptical of your own skepticism, because there is more out there we don't know, and hopefully we'll be able to learn and understand. But you've got to keep an open mind. You've got to be able to, if somebody says something or has an idea, you have to be able to think it through. And what did he say or she say that makes sense? What does it fit? And it's the only way to take something that literally is beyond our comprehension, at least now. Maybe not from a soul perspective. And I think we chase these questions because we know it's there. I didn't get interested in this just because, it dumped in my lap, although it kind of did. But you chase it because somewhere in your subconscious, it's there. It's true. You understand that's how it works, even though you can't consciously pull that apart and say, well, it's this, and this, because that's been blocked. That's been hidden. Otherwise, this life would be a disaster. And that's not the reason we're here. So,
right. and each and every one of us learns at our own pace. We are able to absorb and embrace in the way that we are each hardwired and prepared to do. And
Right.
I understand, I mean, look at, my dear friend George Lopez and Ken DaCosta. They have, on their show on Dead Air Full Spectrum, I mean, they go so outside the box and so far down the rabbit hole with so many different guests that they bring on that it literally forces you to think differently about subject matter that you thought you had a full grasp of. It
Yeah.
literally, even if you reject it, reject the premise in the final analysis, you had to think your way from hypothesis to conclusion.
Right.
And that is the value, not whether or not you come up with a definitive answer with something set in stone, because I don't think that there are experts in this field. This
No.
is still considered pseudoscience, but all existing science that is accepted worldwide now was once considered pseudoscience. And if
Correct.
there's any question in your mind, ask Galileo. You
Exactly.
know, there it
Exactly.
is. Ask Isaac Newton, ask Einstein,
Right.
Nikola Tesla, and the list goes on and on and on of, these great minds that forwarded notions that were considered ridiculous in their time and
Right.
proved out completely and are still proving themselves. Einstein's theory of relativity is still proving itself over and over again with, trips to the moon and trips to Mars. And,
Right.
it's
Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy,
energy and
frequency, and
frequency.
vibration.
Yes.
And he was talking from a scientific perspective. When we decided to remove the radio and use straight broadband white noise, guess what broadband white noise is made up of? Energy, frequency, and vibration. And the results have been just phenomenal. So you're absolutely right. And it's always good to go back and look at, people that did amazing things and had thoughts that broke those boundaries, because there's probably, even if it's not to the T accurate, there's probably enough reality in what they're speaking to be able to open doors with it. And that was a great lead in to Tesla's thing, because I was like, oh my gosh, this works. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I know the owner of the farm.
Yes, I believe you do.
Like really well. And I really love her and she really loves me. And,
That's great.
I'm in a position to bring your group with Ken and his group and Cody and Satori. And all we need are some cameras positioned properly, and we can make history there. And I know
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
we can. We can forward the momentum of this field a quantum leap in our understanding of that portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse.
Exactly.
And so many others. I can't believe that our hour is just about up.
Oh my gosh, it felt like 10 minutes.
I know.
You're right.
It did, but we will do this again and we will talk privately. Hang on the line after we go off air.
Sure.
And so that we can both thank Chanel for being so gracious and helping us make this wondrous hour happen tonight.
Absolutely.
And to see you, to see that
I know
face.
it's been too long. It's been way too long.
It has. It has. I love you dearly. I
love you as
with
well.
all my heart. And, to all of our viewers on a world. Oh, I just heard another crack. I just heard another spark in the room. I don't see anything, but I heard it. Oh my God. Well, hey, you never know what's going to happen around me.
True.
But I just want to thank all of our viewers from all everywhere around the world tonight. We truly are in the midst of a world awakening and a raising of human consciousness that I don't think that we've ever experienced before. And we're all here with purpose and reason. We're all on a mission. And pretty soon, I've got a feeling we're going to know who we are and where we come from. I love you all. Thank you and good night.